son actually belongs to his father, like the skin of a bellows. According to Vedic injunctions, the father is born as the son. Therefore, maintain your son and do not insult.
Parasva putram dushmanta Mavamamsta shakuntalam Mata bhastra pitu putro Yena jata sa eva saha Parasva putram dushmanta Mavamamsta shakuntalam. Please chant.
Mata bhastra pitu putro.
Mata bhastra pitu putro. Yena jata sa eva saha.
Parasva putram dushmanta.
Parasva putram dushmanta. Mama mamsta shakuntalam Mata bhastra pitu putro
Yena jata sa eva saha.
Yena jata sa eva saha Parashva putram dushmanta
Mavamamsta shakuntalam.
Mavamamsta shakuntalam Mata bhastra pitu putro Yena jata sa eva saha Parasva putram dushmanta
Mavamamsta shakuntalam
Mavamamsta shakuntalam Mata bhastra pitu putro
Yena jata sa eva saha
Yena jata sa eva saha Parasva putram dushmanta Mavamamsta shakuntalam. All right, let's do the word for word all together. Mata, the mother. Bhastra, just like the skin of a bellows containing air. Pitu, of the father. Putra, the son. Yena, by who. Jata, one is born. Saha, the father. Eva, indeed. Saha, the son. Parashva, just maintain. Putram, your son. Dushmanta, O Maharaj Dushmanta. Ma, do not. Avamamsta, insult. Shakuntalam, Shakuntala. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The voice said, O Maharaj Dushmanta, a son actually belongs to his father, whereas the mother is only a container, like the skin of a bellows. According to Vedic injunctions, the father is born as the son. Therefore, maintain your own son and do not insult Shakuntala. Purport. According to the Vedic injunction, Atma Vai Putra Namasi, the father becomes the son. The mother is simply like a storekeeper because the seed of the child is placed in her womb, but it is the father who is responsible for maintaining the son. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that He is the seed-giving father of all living entities, Aham Bija Pradapita, and therefore He is responsible for maintaining them. This is also confirmed in the Vedas. Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kama. Although God is one, He maintains all living entities with their necessities of life. The living entities in different forms are sons of the Lord, and therefore the Father, the Supreme Lord, supplies them food according to their different bodies. The small ant is supplied a grain of sugar, and the elephant is supplied tons of food, but everyone is able to eat. Therefore, there is no question of overpopulation. Because the Father, Krishna, is fully opulent, there is no scarcity of food. And because there is no scarcity, the propaganda of overpopulation is only a myth. Actually, one suffers for want of food when material nature, under the order of the Father, refuses to supply him food. It is the living entity's position that determines whether food will be supplied or not. When a diseased person is forbidden to eat, this does not mean that there is a scarcity of food, Rather, the diseased person requires the treatment of not being supplied with food. In Bhagavad Gita 7.10, the Lord also says, Bijamam sarvabhutanam. I am the seed of all living entities. A particular type of seed is sown within the earth, and then a particular type of tree or plant comes out. The mother resembles the earth, and when a particular type of seed is sown by the father, a particular type of body takes birth. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Militandena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. All right. So here we see that, that very night, that the day that they met, the day that they got married, that night they were together, and Dushmanta impregnated Shakuntala, and then the next morning he left. He went back to the palace because after all he was the king, and he had to be there in the kingdom. So Shakuntala stayed there in the hermitage of Kanva Muni, and Kanva Muni was the person who had raised her because she had been abandoned by her mother and father. We talked about that last class. And so Kanva Muni had some experience raising children, and also he was a sage, he was a Brahmin, and so he knew how to do all the ritualistic ceremonies for the growing child. And so the child grew up very nicely there in the forest, even without his father, and he became very strong. He was a special child because his mother also, she was the daughter of a celestial damsel, Menika, right, and a powerful personality, Vishvamitra. So she was a very powerful woman, and she gave birth, and her husband also, Dushmanta, was a powerful king. So they had this extremely powerful son, who we'll learn in tomorrow's class is a partial representation, partial expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this boy Bharat, he would play in the forest, and he didn't have brothers or sisters, there were no other children there, so he would play with the animals. He would wrestle with the lions and tigers, and he was so strong that even as a young boy, he would defeat them. So he was born, they say he was born with the mark of a chakra on his palm, which means that he was like destined to be an emperor. But he's this boy just growing up in the forest playing with the animals. He never met his father. So then one day Shakuntala says, oh, my son is growing up and he's a prince and he doesn't even know it. I should take him to go meet his father, and we should live in the palace, and he should be heir to the throne, and everything should be done rightly. So she takes Bharat and she goes to the palace, and when she gets there, unfortunately, Maharaj Dushmanta, he doesn't accept them. And do you remember what was the reason why he refused to accept them? Oh, it doesn't say here, actually. It says in the purport. So you didn't hear that. He didn't accept them because, Prabhupada says here, they came from outside and were unknown to the citizens. So see, he was worried about his reputation. He was worried, oh, what are the citizens going to think? This unknown woman shows up with a, boy and claiming to be my queen and the prince, the heir to the throne, and they're going to be like, what's going on here? And they're going to lose faith in him, they're going to lose trust, and they're going to rebel against the king, and it's going to be a political disaster. So when she shows up, he's like, I'm sorry, I don't know you. And so this is very, you can imagine, it's very hurtful to Shakuntala, and of course the son also. So what we're seeing here is that Dushmanta is being very irresponsible. He's being an irresponsible husband, he's being an irresponsible father, because, first of all, he just leaves them in the woods there. He doesn't provide for him. It's not explained that he provides for them in any way, shape, or form. And then even when they come to him to take shelter of him, then he initially rejects them. So here we have a powerful king who's essentially a good person. He knows religious principles, and he's behaving quite badly. So, yeah. There are actually other versions of this story, which maybe some of you know. Does anyone know other versions of this story? No? Oh, I'm surprised. Because there's this story is also mentioned in the Mahabharata, and there they try to make, see, these other versions of the story try to make King Dushmanta out to be more innocent. So Mahabharata says that he forgot, right? I guess apparently time passed, several years had passed, and he just forgot. Of course, that's not very plausible, right? That he's going to fall in love with this woman and then just forget. And then, so then there's this poet Kalidas that's mentioned. He's mentioned a few places. He's a famous poet in the sort of Hindu tradition. And Prabhupada says he's a mundane poet. So in his version, this is the version of the story that I know. The only reason I know it is because, my kids were growing up in Krishna consciousness, and we were trying to find all, whatever Krishna conscious books and videos and things to entertain them so they didn't have to go for mundane things. And so we came across this Vedic story, which is from Mahabharata, from Bhagavatam, about Dushmanta and Shakuntala. But it happened to be the version of Kalidas, this poet. So the way Kalidas depicts it, he uses some poetic license and he adds a lot of details that aren't in Bhagavatam. So he says that, so Shakuntala is there in the ashram of Kanva Muni, and Durvasa Muni comes along. And he's expecting, some hospitality. But Shakuntala is just sitting there under a tree, and she's lost in thought, daydreaming about her long-lost husband, Dushmanta, who's somewhere, and when will we meet again? When will I see that, handsome hero? And so she is not aware that Durvasa Muni is there even. And but Durvasa Muni is offended because he's neglected. So he says, the person that you're thinking, he curses her, that the person that you're thinking about now will forget about you completely. So she's like, oh no, this is terrible. My dear husband, the father of my son, is going to forget about me. Please, no, this can't be. Who's going to protect me? So then he says, okay, when the king sees some token, something that he gave you, then he'll remember you. So she said, okay, easy, because the king gave me a ring, and when I go there, I'll just show him the ring, and he'll remember me. So then time passes, and she decides to go and meet her husband. So she takes the ring. So the way Kalidas tells the story is she's walking to the palace. She has to cross a river, and somehow or other she drops the ring into the river. And she's like, oh no, the ring is gone, what to do? Anyways, I'm sure he'll recognize me. We were so in love. He can't possibly have forgotten me. I haven't forgotten him. So she goes anyway, but then the king forgets her. And he's just like, I don't know this woman. She's a little crazy. Get her out of here. So then, according to Kalidas, a fish swallows the ring. She drops it in the river, a fish gulps it up. A fisherman catches the fish, he gets the ring, and he thinks, oh, all valuable things should be offered to our dear king. And so he takes it to the king receives the ring. As soon as he touches the ring, he remembers Shakuntala. He remembers that, he has a child by this woman, and she was the very woman and child that came to see him, and he sent them away, and then he feels really terrible. He calls for them, and then they live happily ever after. So that's Kalidas's rendition. And so you can see both Mahabharata and Kalidas's rendition, they make Dushmanta out to be innocent, right? He's a very pious person, he's a religious person, he didn't make any mistakes, he's flawless. There was a curse, it wasn't even his fault that she was cursed, and he just forgot. So now why would anyone add these details? Like, what is the human psychology here by which someone would not accept the actual version of the story? Yeah.
I think people just to retain their faith in monarchy and the system that was in place at the time.
Yeah, that's a good one, because it was a monarchical system.
Yeah.
So you want the king to be good. You want the king to be pure. You don't want your king to be irresponsible, right? Yeah.
Well, I think sometimes when these stories exist in popular community consciousness, people might have different versions of it that they'll argue back and forth with each other. Like someone might side with one character over another. So then someone might create a version that very focuses the narrative in the way they prefer to read it, and makes their favorite characters out to be perfect and sides everything in a certain way.
Yeah. Yeah, so we have that human nature that we want to have a hero that we can depend on, right? We want someone to be perfect, some powerful person to be perfect, to always do the right thing, to never let us down, never disappoint us. And so these poetic versions, they cater to that human desire, right? Because after all, it's all about marketing when it comes to mundane literature, right? You want people to read your book. right? That's why newspapers, they put all these sensational stories and things. Why? Because they want people to buy their newspaper, because it's a business. So like that, everybody wants to make money, be famous, and to do that you have to cater to what people want to hear. And so a poet like Kalidas, he adds all these details to make it more dramatic, to make it more exciting, to make the hero, larger than life, so that everybody's like, oh wow, what a great story, what a great hero, how great monarchy is, how great this person is, so nice to have good people in the world, right? And it makes people feel good about life, about government, about humanity. So unfortunately, people are not like that. People are not perfect. They're not always good. And these made-up stories don't help us. But Srimad Bhagavatam is actually helping us, because Srimad Bhagavatam is telling us as it is, that, Shakuntala was without any fault. She was irreproachable, right? The word here in text 20 is anindito. Ninda means offense or fault. It means that she didn't commit any offense. She was totally faultless, and yet she was rejected. And Prabhupada starts off the purport saying, Maharaj Dushmanta knew that Shakuntala and the boy were his own wife and son. He didn't forget. He was very conscious, very aware that these are, but because they're from outside and were unknown to the citizens, he at first declined to accept them. So, So Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us the real picture of human nature, and we can trust the version of Bhagavatam because it's considered the Amala Purana, right? Which means the spotless Purana. There's no contamination of the modes, there's no contamination of self-interest, material motivations in the narrations of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Whereas these other literatures, even Mahabharata, ever since the time, even at the time of Madhvacharya made a declaration that the Mahabharata is corrupted, and that the stories that are pastimes that are depicted in Mahabharata are not exactly how it is. Things are added to make it more interesting, to make it more exciting, to cater to the whims and desires of human beings that want to hear stories a particular way. And so when it comes, and what to speak of Kalidas, that Prabhupada says is a mundane poet, and he just uses his poetic license to fabricate a drama that people like. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the Amala Purana. It's also called the Parama Praman. Praman means evidence. So whenever we need authority to make a point, to make a philosophical point, or anything, a scriptural statement, then we need some praman. Right? Praman means, what is your authority? So if you make a statement, somebody says, what is your praman? That means they want to know, what is the scriptural authority for that statement that you just made? And so there are different levels of praman, and some are dubious, and some are very sure. And out of all of the different levels of praman, Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest. Right? Jiva Goswami says that it is the Parama Praman. It's the supreme Praman. It's the highest authority. If there's any contradiction between scriptures, that if there's a version of the story that says something different from what Srimad Bhagavatam says, we have to accept Srimad Bhagavatam's version. So we're seeing here that Srimad Bhagavatam's version is saying that no, this king knew that they were his wife and son, and he, in cold blood, rejected them. And so what is Bhagavatam teaching us here? That even heroes are sometimes irresponsible. Even religious people sometimes act selfishly. And even great leaders sometimes mistreat their dependents. Even good parents, good husbands sometimes neglect their wife and children. So, but Krishna takes care. And so, although the king rejected them, Krishna made an arrangement that this unembodied voice, right, the aha sharirane, the voice, asharirane means literally without a sharira. Sharira means a body. There's no body, there's nobody there, but there was a sound from the sky, right, K-Vak. And it declared that, O Maharaj Dushmanta, a son actually belongs to his father, and this boy is your son, and you need to maintain him and stop insulting Shakuntala. You're insulting your wife. You're acting really badly here. You're mistreating your wife, and you're denying what you know is true. So stop trying to hide it. Stop trying to, lie, and just accept the truth here. And everybody was there. Prabhupada says everyone heard this voice from the sky. And so now the king's, his reputation, because his whole thing was, oh, nobody knows that she's my wife, where did this woman come from? So now everybody, not just him, but everyone heard this voice from the sky, and everybody accepted that this was the providential, this was the voice of God or arranged by God to confirm that this is righteous, that they're actually his legitimate wife and child. So then he accepted them. So, yeah. The point here is that ordinary people in this world may not always take care of us the way they should, but Krishna always takes care of us. Krishna is never irresponsible. He never acts selfishly. He never mistreats those who depend on him or take shelter of him. He's never negligent. And so even when other people in this world neglect us, abuse us, reject us, Krishna is always there for us, and he's always going to make it good. And in fact, the reason that he allows, there's a reason also why he allows others to, mistreat us. And he says here that why would that happen? He gives the example of food. So, yeah, he talks about, in the purport to text 21, the one that we focused on, he says that the father is responsible for maintaining the children. So Srila Prabhupada is emphasizing that fathers need to be responsible. So that's the thing in society nowadays, is that, well, not only nowadays, but for a long time, is that sometimes the father will, get together and have a fling with some woman, she ends up pregnant, and he disappears. And so the man doesn't want to take responsibility for the child. And so Srila Prabhupada is saying that this, and Bhagavatam is saying that this is not right. Father needs to take responsibility. Actually, the child belongs to the father, because it's the father that gives the seed, which is carrying the soul, and that's the soul is the person. The mother receives that seed, and by her own body nourishes and creates a safe space for the fetus to grow into an embryo, into a child. So the father provides the soul, the mother provides the body, and the child is born. But the actual child is the soul, which comes from the father. So it's the father. The father is the prime person responsible for the for the care, the upbringing, the education, and everything for the protection of the child. But then Prabhupada says that in the first couple sentences of the purport, and then he goes straight into saying, but who is the actual father? And he quotes Aham Bija Pradapita, that Krishna is the seed-giving father of everyone. So again, it's this point that Krishna is actually maintaining everyone, Krishna is providing for everyone, and even if one's father is irresponsible, of course this doesn't justify a father being irresponsible, but even if one's father is irresponsible or is not capable of providing for the children, then Krishna will take care. Krishna is never negligent. Yeah. So what is the Bhagavatam teaching us here ultimately?
Depend on Krishna.
Depend on Krishna. Yeah, Krishna is our only shelter. Krishna Eka Sharanam. Anytime?
Depend on Krishna to take care of you and to take care of the people Krishna gives you to take care of.
Yeah, so he's not only taking care of us, he's taking care of them too. And he may be taking care of us through them, right? Like the way that we get spiritual knowledge is not directly from Krishna, although we have Bhagavad Gita, which is Krishna's direct words. But in the Bhagavad Gita, he tells us, try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. And then Krishna creates a system that a child is born, and often animals, they'll just give birth and then go away, right? Especially like mammals don't necessarily do that, but like reptiles, and they'll just go away. But humans are born with a father and mother and a society and systems whereby the child needs to be cared for by parents. So Krishna creates systems. He creates the system of Guru Parampara. He creates a system of families, right? Grihastha ashram in society, so the child can have the best support growing up. But ultimately, he is the person who's providing. Even he says in the Bhagavad Gita, as far as like demigods, people who worship demigods, he says that the demigods may bestow some, some boons, some benedictions upon the worshipper. But he says, actually, these come from me alone. And I empower them to do so. So Krishna creates systems, he empowers individuals, he makes arrangements, but ultimately it's he who is taking care, and everybody else is acting as Krishna's instruments in this regard. So Krishna Ekasharanam. That's one of the 26 qualities of a devotee. And Prabhupada says that out of all the 26 qualities, that is the one quality, that's the one definitive quality. That's the quality that actually makes the person a devotee. All the other qualities, like being patient, being tolerant, being humble, being merciful, a materialistic person can be patient, tolerant, humble, merciful, clean, like that. But a materialistic person is not Krishna Ekasharanam. Means taking Krishna as one's only shelter. And that's what Krishna wants, right? That's the whole conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is Sarva Dharmam Parityaja Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. Just forget about everything else. Just forget about all these other people that you may think are your shelter, and just take shelter of me alone. Mam Ekam Sharanam. And so that's what Krishna is asking for, and that's what he's showing us here through these pastimes. So if Maharaj Dushmanta was the perfect king, if it was just that he innocently forgot and actually, he's a perfect person, he's faultless, then somebody might think, okay, let me take shelter of Maharaj Dushmanta, or find somebody like him in this world who is faultless like him, who is totally innocent, totally pure, magnanimous, powerful person. But what Krishna is saying is, no, you're not going to find such a person. In the material world, such people don't exist, unless they are pure representatives of Krishna. So we have to take shelter of Krishna and take shelter of his pure representative, right? The spiritual master, Mahabhagavat, pure devotees who are free from the 4 defects of the conditioned soul. Because otherwise everyone else has these 4 defects: the tendency to cheat, tendency to make mistakes, imperfect senses, and what's the 4th one?
Tendency to lie.
That's tendency to cheat. Illusion, tendency to be in illusion. Yeah, so everyone in the world has these 4 defects, which make them be sometimes irresponsible, right? Because they get bewildered, they fall into illusion. Or they might cheat us, right? For their selfish purposes. Or they might just make a mistake. And even if they do everything right, but their senses are imperfect, and so they don't always see things the way they are. They don't always have a proper understanding of a situation. So people in this world are always going to let us down. They're going to, and people are going to reject us, right? Raise your hand if you've ever felt rejected. Like practically everybody, right? So people are going to reject us. Our friends, people that we thought were our friends, are going to reject us, abandon us. People who we thought were our beloved family members are going to just be like, get out of here. And so that's just the nature of this material world. And it's not that anything is necessarily wrong with you, right? Like we're seeing here that Shakuntala and Bharat, they were rejected, but they were anindito. They were both irreproachable. Irreproachable doesn't mean unapproachable. Irreproachable means like you can't find any fault with them. They're without reproach. So, don't feel like, someone rejected me, I'm a bad person. No, it's not necessarily, you may or may not be, but it's not necessarily the case. It's just the way people are, is that people will reject you, people will mistreat you, people will, be irresponsible, people will not take care of you when they're supposed to, and that's just the way people in this world are. But fortunately, Krishna is not like that. So we can take shelter of Krishna. So why is this? Because we're coming here to the end of the 9th canto. Why is it that this is important to understand or see as we approach the 10th canto? Yes, Devanshi.
of this topic, complete surrender.
Yeah, we see that in the 10th canto, that when, so Srimad Bhagavatam is trying to get us in the mood of the Brajavasis, trying to get us in the mood of Krishna's eternal associates, so that we can, connect with them, so that we can feel what they're feeling when they're in trouble and they just take shelter of Krishna, right? So when some demon comes charging into Vrindavan, then, are the wives running to their husbands for shelter? Are the children running to their parents for shelter? Is anyone calling the police? Is anyone going and worshipping a demigod? No, everyone is just running to Krishna. Everyone's calling out to Krishna. Everyone's taking shelter of Krishna. And who is Krishna? He's this little boy. He's this little boy who's just playing, goofing around, stealing butter, right? But everybody understands that no matter what it may look like, Krishna is the only shelter. Krishna Eka Sharanam. So that's something that we have to really get a grip on, is that there's no other shelter in this world except Krishna and his pure representatives. Everyone else is going to let us down, reject us, and but Krishna is always there. So don't put your faith in fallible soldiers, put your faith in Krishna. Okay, so any questions or comments on this? Yes, Nitai?
I just wanted to add that also in relation to the 10th canto, this verse here is talking about how important it is for a father to take care of his son, but at the start of the 10th canto, we see Krishna's father has to send him away, actually, to grow up elsewhere.
Yeah.
So that's, I think it also makes, it sets it up to appreciate also how heartbreaking that must be for the pious king to do that.
For Vasudeva, yeah. Yeah, that was very difficult. And then he wasn't able to be there during Krishna's childhood. And the other thing is he couldn't even let there be any suspicion that Krishna was at all related to him. Right? When Nanda Maharaj went to Mathura to pay his taxes, he met with Vasudeva, went to meet him, and he just very vaguely inquired, how are things going in Vrindavan? Right? He didn't ask, how is Krishna doing? Tell me all about him. I'm really concerned about this boy. He's my son, actually. He doesn't disclose anything. He doesn't, and he can't even hint at that, because he needs to make sure that no one knows that he's his son, because that will put Krishna in danger, right? Because everyone, if it comes to wants to kill the 8th child of Vasudeva, so no one can know that Krishna is the 8th child of Vasudeva. Yeah. Anything else, Nityananda?
I have 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
First is, when you said like Krishna is maintainer, he takes care of everything as a father.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me of one pastime where there was a servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Kala Krishnadas.
Yeah.
And he had a direct association of Mahaprabhu, but still he got into Maya. And Mahaprabhu rejected him later. Or I'm not sure the exact story. But my question is, if Krishna is he's the father, and Mahaprabhu is like most merciful, he could have delivered, and because he's giving Krishna prema to everyone, he could have given Krishna to him, but why would he reject him? Second question is, when we say Krishna is our only shelter, are we also talking about material aspect? Because I've seen some devotees and senior devotees as well, but they give advice that sometimes you have to take astrology into your thing to make something happen.
Let's just do one question at a time, because they're different.
Oh, yes.
So first one, about this, so Lord Chaitanya had this servant who was traveling with him, that one, right? And then he got lured by these gypsy women. Is that the one you're talking about? Yeah, so there's these tribal women, the Bhattaharis, and they were like gypsies, and they would lure, these women would go out and kind of seduce young men who were traveling into their camp, and then they would, kind of like get them in their clutches and then rob him and take advantage of him in different ways. So that happened to Lord Chaitanya's servant. And Lord Chaitanya, he did take care of him, because he went personally into that camp and he grabbed him by the shika. And he was like, well, what the heck are you doing? Have you lost your mind? So he pulled him out, and then And then he didn't totally reject him, but he just said that, you know, I can't have you traveling with me. I need someone who's going to help me and not like be a disturbance and, you know, make me go into gypsy camps and, you know, and things like that. So he said, you go home. You know, so it's like obviously if a sannyasi's traveling with a servant, they need the servant is there to help them, not be a burden, not like someone they need to, you know, keep an eye on and discipline and bail out when they get in trouble. It's like he needs someone to help him. So if the person you're traveling with is more trouble than they are help, then it's like, okay, you go home. So yeah, but he didn't reject him. He told him just, you know, stay with the devotees. So devotees gave him shelter, and he wasn't rejected from the Vaishnava community. Just Lord Chaitanya was like, all right, you're not a fit servant for me right now. So like that. And then second question was,
Like some devotees, they take shelter of astrology, but there's
okay, so if Krishna is the only shelter, then why do sometimes our, you know, mentors might advise us to look at astrology or even, you know, go get a job or something, right? Get some kind of, take shelter of some material situation. So, yeah, I mean, these are also systems that Krishna has set up, right? These are not separate from taking shelter of Krishna in one sense, because, you know, Jyotish is a branch of Vedic knowledge, which comes from Krishna. So astrology comes from Krishna, and it's a branch of knowledge that Brahmins would study in order to help people understand what their nature is, what their karma is, basically, for this lifetime. And that can be helpful in guiding, you know, occupational things, kind of more mundane aspects of life. But if someone is a pure devotee, and they're just totally surrendered to Krishna, then astrology becomes kind of irrelevant. Because then, you know, because what astrology is it's a picture of your karma. It's your natal chart, which means your birth chart. So it's what your karma looks like at the time of your birth, right, coming from your previous lifetimes. But when you surrender to Krishna, then Krishna frees you from all of your karma. And then whatever happens to you is no longer a result of your previous activities, but it's just the life that Krishna carves out for you, right? It's all just Krishna's plan unfolding in your life. And he may or may not use your karma. He may or may not like have those things in your astrological chart play out the way they otherwise would have. So, yeah, so if there's someone who's kind of like, someone who's not a pure devotee, then they still are, those karmic things are still affecting them. So then it's good to know what are the influences, what are my tendencies according to my past life, and you know, what is my nature, what is my personality for choosing a job, choosing a wife, choosing a whatever, right? Those things can be helpful. And then also, you know, a job by which we earn money, that's also, you know, varnashram dharma, and 4 varnas mean that you're going to work, right? Whether if you're a Brahmin, you're going to work as a teacher or a priest or a scientist or, you know, like a person in the field of knowledge. If you're a Kshatriya, you're going to work in some administrative position, political position, military, police, something like that. If you're a Vaishya, you're going to work. You're going to have a business, or you're going to have a farm. You're going to trade goods, buy and sell. And if you're a Shudra, you're going to work. Right? Different kinds of labor, crafts, dance, arts. So everybody's working. So it doesn't mean that you're not taking shelter of Krishna because you're working, because Varnashram is a system that Krishna created, right? Chatur Varnam Maya Shrista means Krishna saying, this was created by me. I created this system because everybody needs to do something. They need to contribute to society. Human societies need to function. Everyone needs to contribute somehow. But just do that for me, he says. Whatever you do, yad karosi, yad ashnasi, yad juhosi dadasi, yad tapasyasi konteya, tat kurusvamad arpana. Whatever you do, that's, you know, depends on your nature and all that. But just do it for me. That's the important part. The important part is not what you do, but how you connect it to him. So still you're taking shelter of Krishna. And still you know that your ability to do that work comes from Krishna. And the result of that work also comes from Krishna. That ultimately Krishna is the supplier. Just like he's empowering the demigods to supply, you know, boons on their worshippers. He's also empowering, you know, your employer to be able to give you your paycheck at the end of the month. right? Everything is coming from Krishna. It's like when Hiranyakashipu asked Prahlad Maharaj, what is the source of your strength? I can't understand, like I've tried to kill you in so many ways and you're not even getting scratched. What is the source of your power? And Prahlad says, my source of my strength is the same as the source of your strength. The same, that same one person who is the source of all power, all strength of everyone in all the universes, and that is Lord Vishnu. So, yeah, so he remains the ultimate shelter, but there may be some intermediary, players. Okay. Yes, Roman.
My question is, it is mentioned that the voice said, "Oh Mara Dushman." It is mentioned that the voice came from the sky.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing happens in the 10th canto when Kams takes Devaki and Vasudeva.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, like, whose voice is it?
Whose voice is this? Yeah. Same thing as when Narada Muni in his past life, he was meditating, he saw Krishna in his heart, and then Krishna disappeared, and he's looking, and then he hears the voice, right? I regret to inform you that you will not see me again in this life. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. But one thing we know is that it's something divine, right? It's the voice of providence, Sometimes they use this general word providence, meaning that this voice is enunciating the will of the Lord. It's a divine declaration coming from an unidentifiable source, but it's assumed that it's coming from the Lord. And that's why all the people that heard the voice accepted it. They didn't have any doubts. They're just like, oh, what was that? Right. So they're just like, okay, we heard the voice. The voice has spoken. So, yeah. And also in the case of Kamsa, so anytime in Bhagavatam we hear this disembodied voice speaking, it's always something true. It's always, it's true, and it's helping. It's facilitating the will of the Lord, basically. So someone might think, well, why did the voice say that to Kamsa? Because then he put Devaki in danger as a result of that voice. They end up in prison. Their babies ended up getting killed, right? But no, because the voice facilitated Krishna's appearance. It facilitated Krishna's pastime. So it was all Krishna's arrangement. Yeah. Yes.
In Maharaj's drama, Kali also hears the voice. Maharaj says that I am the voice of Dharma. Maybe it's that.
I'm the voice of Dharma. And
Maybe it's Dharma.
oh, maybe it's Dharma. Okay, maybe it's Dharma personified. Could be. Anyways, Dharma personified is also coming from Krishna. So, yes, Amalaharna.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
You two can fight it out.
Thank you. I was just wondering, since you were mentioning Krishna Ekam Sharanam, and then in the Prabhupada talk today we heard that if we are not serving Krishna, then we'll be serving somebody else. And I, personally being very honest, something happens, I'll directly take Sharana off my phone. I'll start chat GPTing the push, and I'll go to YouTube. It just helps me relieve my anxiety, but it actually doesn't help a lot. So what practical tips would you suggest so that we'll bring ourselves back that, okay, Krishna is maintaining this, that we dependent on, so that we stay dependent on Krishna, not on different things.
Yeah. I mean, chant the holy names.
Delete the app.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes those things can be good for information, right? Like if you need to know something, you go to ChatGTP and it'll give you some information, or it'll help you summarize something, or it'll help you take something and put it in a different form. It can be helpful, right? So Yukta Vairagya, we can use these things in Krishna's service, but it's not that they're the ultimate shelter. They may provide an answer to a question or something like that, but it's not a shelter. You see what I mean? They're not what you're depending on for your life and your salvation, your liberation, and you know what I mean? Right? So for that, it's Guru and Krishna and the Vaishnavas. Okay, Manal?
I just wonder why nobody asked this question, but
you know, it's said that whereas a mother is only a container, like a skin of bellows, like how can we understand this and why sometimes Shastras, they use this very harsh language?
Mm.
Yeah, it looks like they don't like them.
What is a bellow?
Bellow is,
This.
it's basically, yeah, that thing, but they use it to, it's like, yeah, to pump air. So there's like 2 handles here, and then there's an air thing there, and when you open it, it sucks air in. When you squeeze it, it blows it out. And they use it to make a fire go faster. So you know, sometimes you're building a fire and you blow on it to make it go. So in the days when people depended on fire for cooking and all that, then they would have this bellows thing, so they didn't have to go and get a face full of smoke. They would just use the bellows, and it would pump a lot of air. Yeah, so the idea is that the bellows is an empty space inside, and then you squeeze it and the air comes out. So it's kind of like that, right? The child is inside the womb of the mother. So there's a space there where the child is, and then when the time is right, then the child gets pumped out, gets pushed out. So yeah, I mean, it's just being very, I don't know, it's just looking at it like machinery, you know, like the body is a machine. So the problem, we get all sensitive to these things because we are on the bodily concept of life. We identify with the body. So when someone says something that seems to be about my body, then we take it personally. But we're not the body. The body's just a machine. So no one's going to get offended if, you know, they say something about your car, like, yeah, the exhaust, it's just the exhaust pipe and it pumps out that bad air or something. You know, like no one's going to get offended. Oh, why are you saying that about my car? You know, like, that's my car and that's me and I identify with, because we don't identify with the car in that way, right? So it's just talking about body parts, right? So yeah, there is a space there which is specifically designed to contain the embryo and nourish it and then get and push it out at the right time. So that's kind of what it is. It's not saying anything bad about women or women's nature. It's just saying that that's the machinery that the female body comes with, and that's the function that it does in reproduction, right? Is that okay? Oh, yeah. So nothing to get emotional about. Yeah, we all have our machines. Some are fast, some are slow, some do different functions. I always think, you know, in terms of functionality, the female body is really well equipped. You know, it's like, I mean, body can like produce another body and make it, you know, eyes and ears and mouth and heart and lungs, and somehow the female body has the equipment to be able to specialize and make all these different parts. And, you know, and then after when the baby is born, the female body, you know, can provide food, you know, the perfect food for the infant, you know, and it's like, that's like some pretty good machinery, you know, and that's like some pretty amazing equipment and nothing to scoff at. So, yeah, it's kind of like, you know, you could look at the male body. Male body is like physically strong, you know, like that. Maybe more rational intelligence is there. So it's kind of like, there's different vehicles, right? So some vehicles are powerful. Like if you've got like a ramped up truck with big tires and a big engine and it makes a lot of noise and it can like, you know, or a tractor or something like that. It's like the machine is made for a certain type of work or a certain kind of, you know, transportation or activity or something. And then you've got a sports car that's not very strong, but it looks good, right? Or you've got like a stretch limo that, you know, is not very fast and is a gas guzzler, but it's got all these things inside, right? That are like really, you know, convenient or, you know, comfortable or something like that. So it's all just machinery. And so different machines are suitable for different, you can use a different vehicle for a different purpose. You're not going to use a sports car to plow a field. You're not going to use a limo or a van to, you know, race on a racetrack. You know what I mean? So there's different vehicles for different purposes, and we all have our different vehicles, because we get our bodies according to our consciousness from previous life, and Krishna gives us exactly the body that we need to fulfill the purposes that we need to work on in this lifetime. So we shouldn't think, there's anything wrong with our bodies. We should just be like, okay, this is what I got because this is what I need, right? And that point is also made here, that if there is some scarcity or there's some, what you consider a disadvantageous situation in your life, then, is there something wrong? Does that mean that Krishna is not taking care of me? Does that mean that Krishna gave me the short end of the stick? No. It means that that's what we need. So he gives the example here that, well, if Krishna is providing for everyone, why is it that some people don't have food? Why is it that some people, there's famine, there's poverty, and some people don't have, the basic necessities of life? So Prabhupada says that actually one suffers for want of food when material nature, under the order of the Father, refuses to supply him food. It's not that Krishna is not capable of giving that person food, but that person needs to go through an experience of want, right? Experience of lacking something. And just like he gives the example, a diseased person is forbidden to eat, doesn't mean that he doesn't have food to eat, that there's a scarcity of food, but the diseased person requires the treatment of not being supplied with food. So if somebody is short of money or short of something, it's not that Krishna is poor. It's not that Krishna's treasury ran out. It's that person needs to go through the experience of poverty because they need to learn a valuable lesson through the experience that's going to help them in their spiritual life. It's going to help them grow, become purified, become humble, or whatever it is. Krishna knows. We don't know, but Krishna knows. So we should always be satisfied and accept everything as Krishna's mercy. Whatever we have or don't have, whatever body we have, whatever mental faculties, whatever situation, relationships, Krishna is controlling everything and he's our best friend. So whatever the situation is, it's the best thing for us, and we just need to trust Krishna and take shelter of Krishna, see everything as Krishna's mercy, and be satisfied and happy. Okay. All right, so that's a good stopping point. Thank you very much. Granthraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol.